Just a reminder, we're live streaming, guys, as always. Great. Okay, welcome everyone. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our November meeting, Cambridge Community Board. As always, we'll start with our karakia. E te atua kaharawa, homai ki a mātou tikaha, ki te whai atu i ngā huarahi tika, no tēnei hui I tēnei rā. Tihe Māori ora. To the great creator, give us strength to follow the correct pathway for our meeting today. Blessing be to life. Right. Okay, any apologies from anyone? Looks like we're all here. Disclosure of members' interests. Anything on our agenda today? I didn't pick anything. No, okay, good. Right, we'll start with our public forum. Peter, before I welcome you up, I'll just introduce everyone to you so you know who we are. So we have two councillors that sit on our board, which is Philip Coles and Mike Montgomery, here and here. And then for the community board, we have Sue Milner, Alana Mackay, Elise Badger, myself, and Andrew Myers, who is our rural representative. And then we have council staff, so Joe, Zoe, and Gary. Great. Okay, so please welcome. You can sit there. Remember to push your wee talk button. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for inviting me along. I occasionally have people telling me they read my column, but I don't actually. This is the first time I've had anybody ask me to come along and explain a little bit more about what I was trying to say. So thank you. The heading of the column was Waipa Headwinds, but in a sense that wasn't my heading. That was what the council actually put on their own press statement, and I just took it from there. I must admit, I started going through the report to look for things I could criticise in my column, because I only have 500 words, so I don't have a lot of space. But I did actually find some things I could praise, and rather unusually in my column, I did actually start by praising a few things. And I particularly like that there's sections on risk management and performance assessment. It's an area I've worked in myself. They were very impressive. I guess the only concern I had, looking from the point of view of councillors, there was a lot of material and a lot of pages there, and I wondered how thoroughly it was actually looked at. I learned something when I spent 2 years on the board of the World Bank, that the management can actually keep a board in the dark in two different ways. They can tell them nothing, or they can absolutely flood them with hundreds and hundreds of pages of paper that's not prioritized. They both end up having the same result, that the board doesn't really focus. So this material is great. I just hope the council does get the time to actually thoroughly look at it, because it's one of the best sections of that sort that I've seen. That's my praise. I'll now move on to the headwinds and the criticisms. The first area that surprised and disappointed me was the income. I mean, they had a budget surplus of 31 million the previous year, and they budgeted for 45 million this year, and they finished up with 1. It's quite a long way away from budget and a big decline. They pointed to a number of areas where they'd been surprised. Fees and charges income was 21% below budget. Development contributions 71% below budget, and there were a few others. And so, I guess as an outsider not being in it, it did make me worry a bit about the budget setting process when you can miss figures by that much from one year to the next. So that's just really a question that I think you need to ask. What's the budget process like if you get surprises of 71% from one year to the next? The second area I looked at was infrastructure. I mean, we all know that New Zealand has a major infrastructure problem. Infometrics, I don't know how they valued it, but they reckon we're 200 billion short as a country. And this has developed over 10, 20, 30 years. I'm not quite sure how long. It hasn't just suddenly appeared. The Waipa Council report said our infrastructure is in good shape. Now, I don't know enough to know whether that's a fair statement or not. You would know more than me, but that makes them relatively unusual for local authorities in New Zealand if that's the case, because overall this is a huge problem for many local authorities. That's going to be a huge problem in the next few years. So I'd like to think Waipa is in good shape, but I don't really know. The third area I looked at was debt, and related to that is interest rates. Again, they said that they have plenty of headroom for planned and prudent borrowing. A nice positive statement. I think they need being a little bit cautious for two reasons. I was rather surprised. Well, actually, their level of debt was 226 million, which is about 10% of total assets. That's not a particularly high number. And so that didn't worry me. But it had risen by 50% over the year. And that worried me. You can't continue to increase debt at anything like that rate, or you will have a problem very soon. So I'm not quite sure why debt had to rise by 50% from one year to the next. It's still at a prudent level, but the rate of growth is far from prudent. And then one of the headwinds their own press statement identified was soaring interest costs. And of course, when on debt interest rates, their average interest rate has doubled between those 2 years. But it doubled from 1.06% to 2.46%. So last year, the average interest rate was 2.46%. If you're borrowing today, you'll be paying 6-7%. So it's probably going to double. Even if they do nothing, it'll double again in the next 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure if the Reserve Bank is going to increase interest rates further. I did work 22 years for the Reserve Bank, and I'm not quite sure which decision I would take now. But I'm pretty sure they're not going to start coming down for 2 or 3 years. So whether they go any further is now not quite clear. But coming down, I think you're going to wait a little while before that happens. So their interest cost is going to double in the next 2 or 3 years, even if they don't borrow any more. So I think that is a bigger headwind than they're perhaps anticipating. It's going to double even without borrowing another penny. The interest rate effect hasn't worked its way through the system by any means. There's still a long way to go. And I think that's why the Reserve Bank has to be cautious. They still haven't had all the impacts of what they've already done work their way through the economic system. It takes a long time to actually work all the way through. And the risk is they keep adding more and more on the top until they go too far. But hopefully they'll be smarter than that. And the other thing in their accounts that surprised me was that the total comprehensive revenue was a profit of 263 million, a very impressive figure. But their income from operations was 1 million. So how do you get 263 here and only 1 over there? And all the rest comes from revaluing their assets. They increased the valuation of their assets by 260 million, 10% revaluation. I wondered then, if that was sort of a catch up for things they hadn't done in the past years, because a lot of asset values did increase rapidly, but they had actually increased the value of the assets in the previous 3 years, and not by anywhere near as much as that. So I was a bit surprised by that, but again, looking ahead, there's 2 things you can do with the family silver, as we say. You can revalue it to make your balance sheet look better, or you can sell it, which a lot of local authorities are looking at. But you can only do those things once. It's not a permanent solution to any funding problem, that they are a one-off solution. And Waipa's already done the revaluing of the family silver. I'm not sure if they've got any plans to sell. So just looking at their accounts raised questions in my mind. I don't have the answers on most of them, but I did questions. But I did actually start my article, which is very unusual for me, by actually praising something, which I haven't done very often. So I hope they like that.
Have we got any?
No, this is it. So if you want to answer
Right.
But if you,
no, that's fine. Yep, go for it. Yes, yeah.
All right, I'll go back to the 3 points.
All right.
And just try and take 5 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
So asset revaluation. Okay. Help me out, Philip, if I get any of this wrong. And Sue, ex-councillor, anyone else who knows any of this stuff better than me? The asset revaluation thing, I think, is every 2 years. The infrastructure assets are revalued, and they're using that methodology of optimized depreciated replacement value. They have to be revalued to that infrastructure methodology. So it wasn't exactly a catch up. It is a routine thing. And a hell of a lot of it, of course, is roads. So it's not stuff that is sellable. So it's a really weird balance sheet. You see a balance sheet that's $2.2 billion on it.
Parks and roads.
Yeah, it's hard infrastructure, it's roads and free waters and stuff, but it all has to be revalued because we have to run a balanced budget. So we have to fund depreciation as we go. Okay, so the revaluation flows straight through into depreciation. Okay, so that's that one. Interest costs, yeah, I'm with you there. So in the last 10-year plan, which was, the 10-year plan's redone every 3 years, the interest, the forecast interest rates were super low. I wasn't there. I'm like, yeah, I thought, well, they look low. We get advice from Bancorp Treasury Services on that. So that's where those numbers come from. They're all publicly available numbers. As soon as the LTP comes out, you can see the forecast assumptions for interest rates. But yeah, I'm with you.
There's a lot more to come.
There's a lot more to come.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, there's a lot more to come, right? And when this next 10-year plan budget comes out, which is February, I think that's when it goes public.
I just hope the Reserve Bank realises that and doesn't add even more.
Yeah.
On what's already in the system.
Now the debt that we're sitting on, a lot of that debt is related to growth, okay, because the place Waipa's been growing so fast. So one of the metrics we look at is how much of that debt is related to development contributions. So it's actually funded through the development contribution route. So that means the developers who are doing this, the developments, they have to pay these development contributions, and so it's one of the metrics you look at is how much of the debt is actually DC debt and how much of it's rates funded, okay? Because the DC debt, sure, it's on our balance sheet, but it's going to be repaid relatively rapidly as the subdivisions, as they get their 241 certificate, I think it is, when they get 244, is it? The certificate that says they've completed all their conditions of their consent, that's when the DCs fall due.
We can see it go down next year, can we?
No, but it's a really interesting one. So, and again, that's all public. So, so look out for that. Yeah, the infrastructure, your comment about it was called out that it was in good shape. And in audit and risk, we had quite a debate about this because I made the point that renewal capex was less than depreciation, and we had quite a debate about because the capex is divided into growth capex, increase in level of service capex, and renewals. And obviously renewals should be matching depreciation if we're kind of holding our own. We had quite a debate about that in public about how much of the level of service stuff is kind of really renewals. So yeah, it's another one to watch. Again, a public number, so something we watch pretty carefully. And the forecasting was the final one. The variability in forecasting, a hell of a lot of it is about that development contribution income. And you actually, as a council, don't have a whole lot of control over that because you're building hard infrastructure. You're trying to phase it with the developers, but when they the DCs fall due and when they actually pay it, it's quite hard to be super accurate on that. And when a huge amount of the debt is actually relating to the growth in the DCs, that's where that variability comes from. But I'm completely with everything you've said. I agree with everything, and they're all watches, and they're all public numbers. So you'll be able to.
I guess that's what surprised me, that you had a big drop in development contributions. As I drive around Cambridge and all I can see is new buildings going up. So I couldn't sort of put those two things together.
Mostly a timing
Clearly
issue.
It's a timing issue.
Timing issue, yeah.
Yeah, but that was good feedback. That's good. Andrew?
Peter, I'd just like to say thank you. You know, it's reassuring that some people in the community are interested in finances and a big part of what the council.
Well, I have to tell you, the editor actually asked me to write this column. It's one of the few times he's actually told me what he thought I should write about. But I was interested once I started looking at it. And your material was good. I mean, I was able to go through and see most of these things.
Yeah, we need people in the community to keep us on our toes. So it's, thank you.
Why don't you stay with the council? I've spent the last year studying all this stuff on the same questions, asking the same questions, and it takes a while to get there. And, yeah.
That's good, Phil.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for coming tonight. It's good to hear some positive comments too.
Well, I
we
surprised
always
myself by
only-
making positive
we
comments. I
don't hear
normally
them very
don't.
often, and it's always useful. It's great to be able to pass that on to staff as well, because as
It's
you probably
easy to be a critic.
understand, everybody gives the majority of comments are negative,
Yes.
and I never hear the positive. So that's good. So, yeah, thank you.
Great. Anyone else? Sue, Alana, Elise? They're good? Great. Thanks so much, Peter. That was really interesting. Thanks so much for coming along, and yeah, thanks for writing those good.
No.
Yeah, no,
as I
he's
told
got a
her,
very
but
important
timing
date
was
to go
important.
to.
On a Wednesday night, I
Yes.
go to Riverside Ukuleles. And I said,
Yes.
there's a lot of things I'd give up to come to this meeting, but not Riverside.
Not that.
Ukuleles. No.
Thank you so much. See you. Have a good night. Right, there's no one else in our public forum, so I think we can move on. Okay. Let's just move to the minutes of our previous meeting. Everyone feel like that was, I wasn't here obviously, but everyone else feel like that was accurate? Yep. Thank you, Liz, seconder. Sue, thank you. All in favour? Right, now, Brian. Oh, perfect. Okay, great. So this is our coach parking item. Brian is coming. Oh, there he is. Hi, Brian.
Good evening. Hi. So
Now, we can't hear you yet, but
you
I'm
can't
sure
hear me yet. Okay,
Chloe's
I'm
here, so she will be
Yep.
working on that.
definitely off mute and talking. So, yep. Hopefully you can get that working.
Oh, there you are. Perfect.
Very good. Okay. I just hope the dogs don't start barking now.
Cool.
Now that you can hear me. Yeah. Okay, so obviously a little bit of history to this coach parking issue, but if I can take the report as read. I think most people are familiar with the proposal that of providing a couple of coach parks for the visiting coaches, tourists and others who are coming to town, need that spot to park and to be able to reliably park somewhere and have the coaches near for when they're collecting the visitors up again, that they all know where they can meet the coach again afterwards. So obviously worked with Eyesight and the Chamber of Commerce, had their prompting for this and their feedback about the site. I did write an email to the 3 landowners adjacent to the site, and only got feedback from the one, which is the owner of the ex-Bunnings building. Spoke to him on the phone, and he was quite supportive of the proposal. He said it's probably a couple of years before his development impacts that road frontage, and supported the idea of accommodating visitors coming into the town. So yep, there's the options there, and also a bit of discussion about creating some time limits to the parking places besides the retail outlets in that area. So you're keen to hear the board's views on this proposal.
Hi, Brian. Andrew Myers. Did you speak to Bob McQueen, the owner of retail outlets, Domino's and the Cabinet?
No, no, I haven't obviously, I read his letter or plan to the community board about creating Angle Parks opposite, but I've sort of outlined the difficulties of that in the report, and think probably a better outcome would be to time limit the parks immediately adjacent to those retail outlets, so that people are not, workers are not parking them all day long, and then preventing customers from getting into those shops. So, I mean, if the community board support this proposal, we'll do a little bit of consultation with those business owners and make sure that they're also supportive of a 2-hour time limit.
Great. Okay, Phil.
Yep, thanks, Madam Chair. Hi, Brian. Philip Coles. Yeah, thanks for your report, and fully in support of this. As somebody said, it's historic. And when Mick McDermott and myself were involved with the eyesight, coaches approached us then. It's been probably 5 years ago, I think, something like that, 4 or 5 years ago, and we worked with them to choose this site, and probably recall that well, I think it's yourselves or your department approached the property owners like you've done here, and yourselves were satisfied with this site. So it's fully supportive of it, and it's a great location, and it was unfortunate that it was declined by a couple of people, but
Thanks, Phil.
that's all good, and fully supportive of this. So yeah, I'm happy to move it, and yeah,
We'll just have a little bit more of a discussion before
hopefully
we
can get it ahead.
get to that point. I really like that option, Brian, by the Bunnings building. Obviously, it might not be a permanent solution, as you've said. The only thing, and I went and had a little look at it today, the only thing I was concerned about was people then crossing Queen Street, and obviously by the KFC there is a proper pedestrian crossing, but I'm just thinking of perhaps tourists or people who might not be familiar with our town then using that refuge, which is in front of that furniture building. That was my only concern with it being there, was people crossing who might not,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we ideally want them to cross Lake Street and then cross Queen Street outside the town hall where there is a zebra crossing as the the best location, rather than for them to try and dash across Queen Street in front of the furniture store. So I guess that the fact the zebra crossing is highly visible and it is a busy road, so I anticipate that most people will make a beeline for that location to cross.
Right. Okay. Elise, Alana, Sue, thoughts about this location? Just Mike, Sue. And just pull it towards you. Yeah, that's it.
Good crossings where people can see that there are crossings there for them to use. I think it will work. And I think that, hopefully we're not going to get people just thinking they can cross at any point. And I think they'll notice that traffic's busy enough without trying to do anything silly. I hope so anyway.
Alana?
Yeah, looks good to me. Thanks, Brian. And I also like that it's quite a low cost option to implement, as would be the time limited parking spaces, and hopefully quite effective in both respects. So I think both suggestions really make good sense, and happy to support them.
Great. Elise, thoughts?
Thanks, Brian. Yep, I echo what the other members have said. I have some hesitations about endorsing the time limited parking without knowing a little bit how those retailers would feel about it, only because they've been quite vocal in their interactions with us thus far and have clear ideas about how that should work. And I understand you'll go out and do some consultation, but I guess if I was to endorse the time limited parking, would be making sure that felt or worked for their businesses as well. Because I mean, there's not a lot of unlimited parking now in the CBD, and I guess that will eventually disappear altogether as the CBD grows, and we're slowly making our way there anyway. But you do have a lot of that tension, isn't it, of people who cannot get into town, have jobs in town without a car, but need somewhere to park. So I would just be interested in knowing what those local retailers and surrounding businesses, how they felt about that time limit parking before I would give it a big tick, but happy to tick it and then let you do that work with them. Yes.
Okay, cool. Andrew, any thoughts on?
Oh, I just agree with everything that's been said. Yeah, I'd like Bob McQueen to be engaged, as he's a resident that's come to us. We represent him, so I'd like to hear what he has to say in the process. Thank you.
Okay. Mike, any further thoughts? You're good? Okay, good. I mean, this is certainly something that has been definitely needed as our events kind of pick up and Cambridge gets busier and busier. We certainly need a place for those buses to stop. So let's go through our motions. First one will be that let's just do it all together. Oh no, we'll have to do it separately. Okay, so can someone move that? Can we? Okay, all right, let's do it together. Okay. So it sounds like we are all in support of the proposed provision of coach parking at 23, 31 and 26 Lake Street. Yep. And then it also sounds like we, on the whole, support the 120-minute parking time limit across the frontage of 81 Queen Street and 16 to 20 Lake Street. Yeah? Okay. All right. And we'll also receive Brian's report, coach parking Lake Street, Cambridge. I'm happy to move that. And someone can second. Alana? And all in favour? Great. Any against? No. Okay. So that's carried. Good. Oh, thank you, Brian. That's good. Good thing to get sorted.
Very good. Thank you.
Cool.
Madam
Have
Chair.
a good evening.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks. See you. Bye. Great. Okay. Cambridge Pathway. So Eric will hear from you and then after. Thank you.
I've got,
Oh,
I
yes,
have-
that'd be
I-
good.
I've printed an A3, so
Right. I'll help you hand them
I might just hand them out. There's a whole bunch of them. So, oh, that's. Oh, yeah, that's another set. There's 8 copies, but yeah.
No, we can have one of those too. We're just going to come back.
It's kind of a complex issue, but it's
Yeah, so we've, yeah, that's been quite a good process, I think. If I could take my report as read, and yeah, happy to participate in discussion, answer any questions. What I would say is, so some of the feedback discussed some possible traffic redistribution impacts. So we have started that study to do that. So we put traffic counters out, I think last week, in all the affected roads out there, all the streets. And so by probably the end of the week or early December, we'll have a mini traffic impact report that looks at, the redistribution of traffic if we do fully cul-de-sac Grey Street, or if we turn Clare Street into a one-way street. So we're doing that work. They'll be available in 2 or 3 weeks, but the numbers we're expecting are quite low. So there might be some very localized issues come out of it, but we're not expecting any significant matters to arise from that.
Okay. Can you just, Eric, take us through those 3 options?
Yep.
As
So
we
probably,
look at the map.
So the clearest way is on page 3 of my report, which is page 21 of the
Yep.
agenda pack. That has so the word summary is actually probably easier to get your head around than the actual plans. So option A is that we call Grey Street a cycle-friendly street, which means that cycling is on the road with, I guess, mix of cars. And with that option, we're going to keep the exit leg at Grey Street, Hamilton Road, supported by significant traffic calming works, and that's probably raised safety platforms. So to calm traffic, you can do 2 things. You can make it real narrow, which is called narrow, or swing them horizontally, or vertically, which is a speed hump. But the traffic calming, the speed humps will be permanent ones, not plastic. So that's that. Clare Street remains 2-way. And then, the exit leg from Grey Street to Hamilton Road stays open, and we just support the works of new footpaths. Option B is where we physically close Grey Street to Hamilton Road, so it becomes a full cul-de-sac. And it's still supported by significant traffic calming works. Clare Street could be made one way, and the reason for that is we've got that the school straddles Clare Street. There's the campus is on both sides of the road. There's an existing zebra crossing there now, but we could make that a narrower crossing point. And all new footpath connections. Option C is where we so Grey Street would not be a cycle-friendly street, but we would construct a shared path. It still means you can still bike on Grey Street, but there'd be a facility on the path. And we will still have the traffic calming works, Clare Street 2-way, and we can keep the Hamilton Road exit from Grey Street open. Just an important note, and it was probably something that wasn't that clear in the documentation, is that we can mix and match the best parts of each option. So yeah, that's probably an important consideration.
Okay. Could you also tell us a little bit about, because obviously the kids at the school have picked option C as, or there's more votes for option C, while the rest of the stakeholders have chosen other options. It's interesting to me that the kids chose Grey Street will not be a cycle-friendly street. I find that interesting. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah,
why that would have been? And I mean, they're kids, they sometimes fully don't understand all
Yeah.
the ins and outs of things.
That was a little bit surprising. I think it does reflect that, like, for example, on other parts of in Cambridge, with the Hamilton Road Cycleway, there's other shared paths.
Mm.
So they're probably used to having other areas where there is a separate facility for them.
Yeah.
And I guess it's hard to imagine the full scale of traffic calming and the cul-de-sac, what that does to traffic.
Mm.
If, either slows it right down or will slow it right down and removes a lot of it. So so that's, and then I think some of them, they use scooters and they would still want to use a footpath for scooters.
Mm. And also the support from the public in making Clear Street one way was pretty split, really. I suppose you wouldn't really know how many of those were residents. It's probably just
We
general
could
public.
find out, but I think
I'm just thinking of Clear Street residents when they want to leave their home, and if Grey Street's cul-de-saced.
I think so when we talked through Clear Street and one-way system with both the school, Bicycle Revolution, and some other people, that the one-way does become difficult because if you want to bike the wrong way, where do you bike? That's one thing. And it reduces the amount of roadside parking available. So that was another thing we heard from, I guess, from the school, was that there is still a strong need for roadside parking. And so, and that was, we heard that pretty strong. But I guess from the traffic point of view, the shorter crossing time, the better. But we're pretty confident we can upgrade that zebra crossing to make it even safer.
Great. Okay, I'll just open it up to the other board members for comments, questions, initial thoughts on which option you guys are liking.
Eric,
Andrew?
can I set some context? You included some other maps and diagrams from Bryce Street and Wilson Street, etc. Is that just not,
That's to give you the full context.
it's not for discussion tonight?
No,
is that right?
That's under construction effectively.
That's what I
So
thought. Yeah.
that's just to give you the full context of the
Thank you.
Mike?
Just more on the Clear Street one way. What are the pros and cons of that? I mean, you've talked about just an easier pedestrian crossing. Is there anything else in there?
You could do a lot of feature landscaping in front of the school with the wider berms. You could make a real nice streetscape in front of the school.
Is it going to make people go around the block, though? Like for school drop-offs and that sort of stuff? How much school drop-off stuff happens there? I don't even know. Is it
A lot, yeah.
Like
A huge
a lot?
amount. Yeah,
So-
a huge amount.
So I think that just, and this is my just sort of a best estimate of it. So you got just over 500 kids at the school, and I think half of them walk 700. And I think almost half of them walk bike, and I think another significant portion they use the bus. But you're still left with probably 200 or 300 cars.
And when it rains, it doubles, you know?
But the kids are coming from all directions around there, or you are walking and biking. So if you're one-way Clear Street, you make it better or worse, is what I'm trying to wrestle with here. Because if you're coming from north or west, and you've got cars that are going around the block to do a kid drop off.
In the discussion of the school, I think it was recognised that everyone kind of needs or desires that drop off occurs further away from the school, so that you're not just going to the front door. You can drop off on William Street or drop off on Hamilton Road or the like. That's probably where it's at, rather than aim for the intersection of Grey and Clear.
Yep.
It would have been a good one to test, loader boxes.
Yeah.
Just to see how it worked. We didn't, right?
Yeah, Phil?
Thank you. Just a quick question, Eric, just Grey Street, so that's both sides, you'd close potentially both sides of Hamilton Road on the Grey Street.
Now, on the table, it's just the north side only.
On the north side only.
Yeah. So,
School
sorry,
side.
of Hamilton Road, you mean, Phil?
Yeah,
Or-
is it either side of Hamilton Road or
No,
just
just
the school side?
the school side only.
Mm.
So in the future, there's no reason why we couldn't consider the other side as well. But in terms of this work, it's just a school side.
I guess the only thought that I have with regards to Clear Street being one way is one of the things that people really love about old Cambridge is the grid system and how easy it is to use. And that would obviously complicate that. Thanks, Eric. Can I just give you 2 thumbs up for your public consultation and engagement? It's really great also to receive that as a board and see exactly what people have been saying. It helps inform our thoughts, for me anyway, my decision making and thoughts around what people are thinking about this significantly. So thank you for including that in your report. I think it's the first time we've ever had direct submissions get back to us. So really appreciate that. And I'm sure that would have taken some time to put together. So thank you. Clear Street, yeah, my thoughts around that is that we make a significant change to impact a short period of time, 2 points in the day, which may then impact the movement of our residents the rest of the time. And I understand it's about safety, but it sounds to me, Eric, like you've got a lot of other measures up your sleeve to calm the traffic, to slow them down and to create safe networks for children and students to move around there. So I would be in favour of keeping it 2-way, or to your point previously, can we test any of these things before making hard changes to the ground? Like, is there budget to say, hey, we're going to test this for 3 months and see how this impacts the community? Or however you achieve that, but you know, these potentially contentious issues that we're not really sure, the community is split, they're 50-50. So instead of honouring 50% that said yes or honouring the 50% who said no, can we test it and then have a more real world response to that?
I think, so when we did the Streets for People trial a few years ago, we were quite bold in doing that, but I think for some significant matters, I think it gets really challenging. It gets really challenging because the infrastructure you can put out isn't permanent. Everything is a little bit compromised in what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we just risk that backlash again. I think, hearing through from the school about the need to provide as much roadside parking as possible, I think that becomes a compelling consideration that you would ask me today what's technically best. You would keep it 2-way, and you just put more effort into traffic calming to make sure that that zebra crossing is really safe, and at the intersection of Grey Street and Clear Street is safe as well.
Okay, so testing it might be in the too hard basket, and potentially keeping it 2-way, we can still have a good outcome.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that slip lane, the exit lane out of the cul-de-sac, the pros and cons of keeping that there?
So from this project point of view, it's overwhelmingly it would be overwhelmingly a good idea to close it.
To close the exit lane
The
as
exit
well.
lane. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, overwhelmingly positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that just encourages people to use Grey Street as a thoroughfare? Is that why is a highway onto Hamilton Road?
Yeah, as what, yeah, I guess from a school run point of view, it's a really convenient exit onto Hamilton Road if you're heading
Yeah.
east. But that has a huge conflict with walking and cycling from the school. The only issue with it is that will inconvenience some people, but there's plenty of alternative routes.
Just if it is cul-de-sac, and the difference between the shared road and the cycle path, or then on the road, what do you call it?
Yeah, the cycle-friendly street.
The cycle-friendly street, yeah. So if you were cycling on the cycle-friendly street, you come to the Clare Street, Grey Street intersection, is the expectation that if you're on a bike or a scooter, you would have exited before the intersection, or you'd ride through it?
As in, if you're heading north.
If you're heading to school.
So
north, yeah.
So what the proposal kind of is that the block of Grey Street between Clare and Williams is cycle friendly up to the bike sheds as well, where there's a Kia crossing at the moment.
But if so, I'm riding north along Grey Street, across Hamilton Road.
Yeah,
I'm on the friendly street.
Yeah.
Do I turn right into Clare Street in the traffic queue, the traffic way, or do I exit onto the path? Do I come in here? Do I jump off and come over to the zebra crossing? What's going to happen there?
No, so we would encourage cyclists to use the road, street,
and the road intersection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It'll be so the transformation would be quite significant. So we could. There's lots of tools we can use on that. We will just narrow that intersection completely. We would talk to the bus contractor, how they get to the bus stop on Clare Street, and then what they could potentially do is go down William Street, Hall Street, Clare Street, so they're not turning at that intersection. They can just go straight through, and so there's no need to deal with a turning circle for a bus. So you, as a cyclist, you would be part of traffic. But
But if you had the cycle lane option, you wouldn't be. You'd go through that intersection.
So cycle lane, then you would.
Would you jump off and walk across that pedestrian crossing, or would you ride across it?
So again, there's various ways we can do that. So we could do a dual crossing. So you give a cycle part of the crossing or a zebra part of the crossing, or we can have just the zebra. But I guess what will happen in practice, the kids will just bike across the zebra.
Yeah,
I think that's what happens. Yeah. So that's one of the challenges we've got in the documentation from Wakotahi is that they take a legalistic view on exactly how it works, and you end up having hundreds of signs and markings and stuff, and it becomes just a clutter of symbols and stuff.
Phil, did you have a comment
Oh,
or question? Sorry.
no, the only comment or observation I had the other day was I was driving into town heading towards Victoria roundabout, and I was up. There was big traffic congestion past Grey Street, and there was a car that was in front of me turned right into Grey Street. Over that cycle track and the opposite way. They weren't waiting for the queue.
Those exit legs are problematic. They're all problematic.
Okay. Further questions for Eric? Yep, please.
I've spent a bit of time looking at these things now. It's quite hard to make a really good decision on it as a group, but it's really expensive if you really want to get this right. So, with the expert, so I'd sort of say, don't be shy about saying what you think is best. and working for particular reasons. But I find it quite hard looking at this stuff. And if you build it no road for it 20 times, I'll know straight away if it's good or not. But it's hard to know that in advance looking at these.
So,
Does agree with that? It's
No,
just
spot
hard.
on. Spot on. And I think that's why it's good to hear from Sarah as well, from Bicycle Revolution Cambridge. And perhaps, Sarah, if you want to sit next to Eric, and Eric, don't leave, just stay there. And Sarah, if you can talk to some of these options. Yeah, please. Yep. And we can just kind of back and forth a little bit, have a bit of a discussion, even between the two of you, about, about some of those options. We've read your submission, Sarah, as well.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me again. Apologies. Tim's family has COVID, otherwise he would be here. Different face.
Oh, no.
But I think and we were grateful to council, obviously, to have an opportunity to put a formal submission in, along with the rest of the community, on behalf of Bicycle Revolution Cambridge. We all ride bikes. We've got kids who ride bikes. We've got engineers on our committee. We've got everything from start to finish. But I think with the way we approached it, our sort of philosophy around Cambridge to make Cambridge a better place to bike, is not just focused on one school or one cycle path. It's how this connection fits into a greater network, and does it make sense to a user, to your point, Mike, does it make sense to a user when they're leaving the Cambridge cycle path and then going past middle school and beyond? What does it feel like to someone on a bike, particularly a vulnerable user? That's sort of the position that we came from, but also being cost effective. I mean, it's a big part of our thinking. This stuff it's stupidly expensive. No council is ever going to be able to make step changes with the amount of money that it costs to build completely separated cycle facilities everywhere our community wants to get to. And I think it's ideology. I'm not saying that that's what our council's thinking. It's just in general where this stuff is going in New Zealand. And I think councils and decision makers have to be quite pragmatic about how we use our roads and where we spend money and where we invest in the gold-plated infrastructure, which is a beautiful piece of infrastructure along Hamilton Road, the separated cycleway that's millions of dollars per kilometre, and where we look at other options that can be equally effective as part of a greater network. So in terms of I put my glasses on to read my own bloody submission. We really looked at all the options that were presented and didn't choose A, B, or C. Effectively, you'll see a map there where we've with the highlighted boxes. That was our submission. Thanks, mate. I can't read that either, even with my bloody glasses on. And a key part of it was talking to the school. We met with Daryl and the DP, Daryl's the principal at Cambridge Middle School, how the school functions, how the kids ride, where they come from, how they use the streets, what the school does by way of safety measures before and after school. To your point, Elise, creating an environment for a user that's only going to be using it for half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the afternoon isn't really a good way to approach it. And the school has other safety measures they do as part of their before and after school care, effectively, by way of care crossings, by way of teachers out, by way of holding back traffic when kids cross a pedestrian crossing to allow the cyclist to leave the bike shed en masse safely. Things like that, that is quite relevant when you're designing something for that particular period of time, as opposed to making blanket changes based on the school user when there are other safety measures that go on behind the scenes. So that was relevant. Basically, we thought that making Grey Street in its entirety to William Street a cycle-friendly street, not mixing and matching treatments of shared path and separated cycleways and cycle friendliness, but making the entire connection from Hamilton Road to William Street a cycle-friendly street, with the premise in mind that cycle-friendly streets will be used in Cambridge as part of the bigger network. So at the moment, I think, I'm not sure who mentioned it earlier, about the kids. Oh, I think you mentioned, Joe, kids didn't choose a cycle-friendly street. They don't know what one is. They've never ridden on one in New Zealand. There aren't any in Cambridge that's cycle-friendly street. I mean, Grey Street South kind of functions like that now because there's no traffic on it, because it's it's an exit only. If you guys have ever ridden down or walked down Grey Street, it's empty, it's dead. Traffic doesn't go fast. So, I mean, Eric's already spoken about some of the measures. We don't have to go into details now, but creating a cycle-friendly, a low-speed, safe environment for those two blocks from Hamilton Road to William Street. That will be consistent with other cycle-friendly streets that council will hopefully, that will soon be advocating for, use as part of the greater network as they build more and more sort of networks and connections around Cambridge. So yes, cyclists, what we believe is cyclists and not so much scooters obviously, but people on bikes, whether it's at school time or other time, they will ride through that intersection. The bike sheds on the other side of the intersections, but they could, if they wanted to, they could choose to hop off. There'll be no traffic between Hamilton Road and Clare Street. So if they wanted to ride along Clare Street and then hop off and walk their bike to the bike shed, they can, but it will be safe. To Eric's point, the intersections will be designed to the requirements and the criteria to make them a cycle-friendly street. And we've asked council, again, the cycle-friendly street design is also with proviso that the traffic speeds can be brought down to 30 k's an hour? 30 k's, that's a requirement to be a cycle-friendly street where vulnerable users can mix with traffic. The traffic has to be an average of 30 k's an hour. And what's the max? Is it 200 vehicles per hour?
Yeah, that depends what list you read.
Right,
But
200 or 300.
The key thing is minimizing through traffic. And it's less than 30.
Yeah. So we've so the treatments will have to reach those requirements. We've also asked for an impact on a traffic impact assessment for cul-de-sacing and just understand the traffic flows and how many cars currently use Grey Street to be able to inform whether or not it can become a cycle-friendly street. But also in terms of the wider picture, a big issue for the school, the major safety concern for the school was William Street and kids making a beeline for the dairy across the fields of middle school, across William Street to get to the dairy. That's their biggest safety concern across the whole school network. So that's in our submission as well, that becomes part of the treatment. It can't just stop at the bike sheds. The treatment has to go all the way to William Street, and that whole intersection needs to be treated accordingly. Again, with the cycle-friendly street, it has to be obvious when you enter a cycle-friendly street or safe environment.
You call it a shared street, shared zone, greenway.
Yeah, there's
cycle-friendly,
loads. So all that means the same, basically. It's the same environment. As soon as someone, even before they enter that street, it has to be so obvious that you cannot go 50 k's an hour. And that it will be a low speed environment. So that intersection of Williams and Grey Street is really important, which is not shown on your options. So we've extended the scope. It should also not be anywhere near as expensive as a two-way separated cycleway at $1 million a kilometre. We're not a fan of, again, having to talk to the school. We don't think we need to one-way Clare Street if the cycle-friendly street is designed appropriately. We've also suggested trialling planter boxes to continue the network down to the light control crossing across Victoria Street, to continue the network and providing, again, going back to the two-way cycleway, but trialling it down William Street to get to the safe crossing. So effectively giving kids a network from the high level bridge pretty much to another safe crossing to get to William Street, almost to Cambridge East Primary School. The planter boxes are there, it'll be really cost effective. It's half of William Street is already the school. So in terms of landowners that are affected or residents that are affected, there are a third of that block, maybe only be 3 or 4 residents affected by a two-way cycleway in front of their property. So we've put that also into because obviously kids go that way as well as south. And fully cul-de-sacing, obviously, as part of the cycle-friendly street, fully cul-de-sacing Grey Street. A few other rats and mice in there, but that's sort of the general philosophy of where we came from, what we're proposing.
I have a question for you, Sarah. Right, thank you. One thing that I think is interesting as we consider urban mobility as a whole, as a big network across Cambridge, is that behaviour change. And I'm with you on the cycle-friendly street versus this beautiful separated cycle path, because it's just going to be unfeasible for our council to deliver that as a wider network across our town. So we need to start building behaviour change into both motorists and cyclists. And I mean, students are a great population to start driving that behaviour change, obviously. And to your point, okay, there's some deeper connections that need to happen here to really round off the safe pathway for students to move around the school. So I really like the idea of honing into these cycle-friendly streets because then I think we can do more of them at a better price, which ultimately we want more of our town to be serviced by this versus sparkly little things in little pockets that you can't really get to safely because the rest of them isn't very well connected. And I think we also need to start driving that behaviour change because the infrastructure, if it's not well connected, well, the behaviour change actually needs to be motorists and cyclists, and reading through some of the submission feedback, people are like, well, what about the car drivers? And I'm like, well, you're just going to have to this is the behaviour change we're all going to have to get on board with, is that as a driver, I need to act differently in a suburban environment as I do on a motorway or an expressway. So, thank you for your submission. I like that you're suggesting we think about going deeper in Eric. I'm interested if there's budget to extend that corridor further if you did a more cost-effective option like this cycle-friendly street.
Yeah, so we've got budget for the hard infrastructure that we've kind of drawn, which sort of Grey Street up to the Kia crossing where the bike shed is, and the bits and pieces on Clare Street. The extension further up Grey Street and potentially in Williams Street. We've got all the surplus equipment from our Streets for People Patrol a couple of years ago. So all the planter boxes on Wilson Street. There's a few others scattered around the district now that we can gather in and use effectively. That you're talking hundreds of dollars. It's not a big deal. We've also kept all those larger wooden planter boxes. They're all in Arnold Street, and there's a few other left around, and they could be used to be placed on the seal on Grey Street, school, to narrow the traffic lanes, and then so you can still park in between those trees, and we're pretty confident we can create that environment. The challenge will be the crossing point of Williams by Grey. So, but there's now other products that we've got one trial site in Tiamutu by the intermediate school where we've got a plastic product that you can cross. It could be a zebra crossing or a non-zebra, and it's working really, really well. So I think in terms of budget and design, it's quite feasible.
Okay.
And I think you're hearing from the school and some of the kids that connection from the north that we've left out, and that connection to the dairy. Those are big things.
And the practical things right there. So that's some great work you've done, Sarah, finding out what was important to them. Thank you.
Okay. Oh yeah, please. Yep.
The funding of this, what you're calling gold-plated infrastructure, that's Waka Kotahi funding to a large extent, isn't it, Eric?
Yes.
Yeah. And we kind of got it partly because it is a separated fuel way cycle lane. Is that right? What does it fund gold-plated cycle lane?
So it depends on the context. So where you've got busy streets, we have a lot of through traffic and large volumes of traffic, that's the ideal situation. But they fully support this type of initiative as well. So again, because they've got the same funding constraints as well as what we have. So if their investment contribution, if that full length of Grey Street was cycle friendly, that's a very positive attribute.
And they've very much recognised now. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the media a couple of weeks ago where they've completely frozen a whole heap of stuff. Yeah, obviously. That's going to continue to happen as costs rise and becomes less money to go as far as it used to. But in NZTA's cycle action plan, finalised in March this year, they're going through another iteration now, but it's not going to change too much. They are very much about quick wins, cost-effective solutions, and what we discussed earlier, Elise. In order to get the step change and the behaviour change, you're not going to get it by building 1 kilometre and then another 500 metres and then another kilometre and building 5Ks over 10 years, which is all that people can afford if you're building the gold-plated stuff. Because people don't understand it and you haven't got connectivity. And in order to get the step change of cyclists, or people to get on bikes, then motorists to understand how it all works, you need to be able to get some like I say, step change in infrastructure quickly. which can only happen through cost-effective solutions. So if you read NZTA's cycle action plan, they've got 4 strategic priorities now, and it's very much cost effectiveness, innovative solutions, using existing road space, and quick wins. Not so much tactical urbanism, although that plays a part in terms of the temporary stuff, the planter boxes and hit sticks, but cycle-friendly neighbourhoods, cycle-friendly streets, reallocating road space, not retrofitting enormously costly infrastructure, which is appropriate in certain areas where volumes are high and speeds are high. However, in our blessed town of Cambridge, we have got an incredible grid system, and we've got roads that already function as cycle-friendly streets here in Cambridge that we could use tomorrow without spending a dime on them, if they were seen as part of a greater network. But that's so yeah. So it's very to reiterate Eric's point, they're very supportive as part of the wider context using cycle-friendly streets in cost-effective ways.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Right, I think what we should do now, what I would prefer to do for our feedback is actually put forward the different points that we like rather than choosing an option. Is that okay, Eric, if we do that? Rather just give you, yeah, you can stay to listen to our feedback, or if you'd like to leave, you can.
Or if anyone has any other questions.
No, yeah, any further questions for Sarah? No, we're just going to discuss, I think, which points we would like to put forward and then do it that way. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for Sarah?
Yeah, for Sarah.
Oh,
Sarah,
sorry.
There's such an issue for the council moving forward. Would it be an idea that a community board member attends a meeting or? You do? Okay.
She does.
That's all good. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. Great insight. Right. Okay. So I think we have agreed that we all like Clare Street being 2 ways. Eric said that's technically probably the best option. Bicycle Revolution also like that. Everyone happy with that? Keeping Clare 2-way? Okay. We'll write all these down and then Joe will read them all out and we'll. How are people feeling about Grey Street being cul-de-sac? I like that option. Yep. Seems like, yep. Yep. So you're okay with that? Yep. Mike, Andrew? Yep. Okay. So Grey Street to be cycle friendly with no through traffic.
No exit lane. Yeah.
Yeah. The current traffic exit lane from Grey Street to Hamilton Road is closed. The current traffic exit from Grey Street to Hamilton Road is closed. Hamilton Road, yep, is closed. Then I think we can just add traffic calming works. And then what do we want to put about continuing on in Williams? Would we like to say that we would support further calming traffic calming measures?
Yeah, I think we should support the cycle-friendly street
Yep.
model
Yep.
versus the separated bike path.
Yep.
Maybe be clear about that.
To support cycle-friendly street from Grey
To Williams
Street to Williams
Yeah.
Street, through to Williams Street.
And yeah, so we support that cycle-friendly street.
Yep.
And recommend, as per Bicycle Revolution's
Yep.
mission, to extend it to William Street.
Yep. Right, anything else, Eric, that I'm missing?
William Street. So the option of a pop-up cycleway in William Street.
Oh, yes,
I
yeah.
didn't understand in that instance why it would be a separate cycleway and not a cycle-friendly street.
So I think so I think William Street crosses a threshold of the volume of traffic.
Okay,
And yeah, that where it's safe to do or not to do.
okay, that's fine,
Yep.
thank you, yeah. Well, look, if we can, I'd be in favour of it if we can
Yep.
achieve it with
Yep.
the measures you have already available to you.
Yep.
And how everyone else feels about that. And with the appropriate consultation to the.
Yeah, I was going to say,
adjoining
yeah, I think there's half a dozen houses that we
Yeah.
need to talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, Corinne's in.
Yeah.
So we would put, yeah, in favour of investigating traffic calming measures.
Was specifically the pop-up.
Oh,
cycleway.
yeah, pop-up cycleway.
Um,
Yeah, so just take
following the
traffic out.
consultative community engagement.
Yeah. Pop-up Cycleway, following community engagement. Okay. Yes, yes. Okay, anything else before we read it out?
And also on William Street, the crossing of William Street to the north. So
To the dairy.
Yeah, to the dairy. Yeah, yeah.
So there's
that-
not one there currently, is
There's
that right?
nothing now.
But is that plastic product you're referring to? in
Yeah,
Town
yeah. So
Movers?
that can be, it's cheap and cheerful, works quite well.
Sure.
So that, again, it needs a lot of design, but that's a,
Yeah.
that would be good to get your steer. on
I
that.
support,
Yeah.
I always support pedestrians having safe ways to get across roads,
Mm.
absolutely.
The dairy on, is it, southern side of Grey Street
Cabbages.
closed down with traffic calming, is that right?
It's closed, get it shut down.
Yeah, would that occur if we traffic calm the northern side perhaps, or,
That could be the dairy.
and that would affect your design, just a comment?
Right, okay, so we have. It's pretty much the same thing. If you go through traffic, to Hamilton Road, you can just put through traffic. to Hamilton Road, and then take C out. Yep. 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 On, yep. Yeah, so remember.
Oh, yeah, the library ones.
Just watch your like. Okay, guys, we have that the Cambridge Community Board provides the following feedback on the design options for the middle school section of the Cambridge Pathways project. Right, Clare Street remains two ways, dual ways, however we're going to write that. Grey Street to be cycle friendly with no through traffic to Hamilton Road. Traffic calming work supported. Supports cycle friendly street concept and supports the Bicycle Revolution Cambridge proposal to support cycle friendly street from Grey Street through to William Street. Investigate pop-up cycleway following community engagement on William Street and support the installation of pedestrian crossing on William Street across from the school. Does that sound like all of those options were covered?
We could probably fuse the cycle friendly street, the 2 points about supporting Grey Street to be cycle friendly, just fuse it from Hall Street to William Street. I think we've got 2 points there, which you fuse into one, but that's just been presented. Don't need to afford. We'll say the same thing. The first point was support Grey Street to be cycle friendly.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, we say it again when we say from
Yeah.
Hall Street to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Just
that-
take,
just one point.
make D, just support the Bicycle Revolution Cambridge. But you can just add that in there. Yeah. Yeah, because it's there. We didn't already, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, to Williams. Yeah, yeah, actually, that's true. Okay, go back and we'll just leave it. I think as is. Sorry, Elise, I've overruled you. Okay, I'm gonna move that. Seconder? Philip, thank you. And all in favour? So Joe and Philip. And any against? No. Okay, that's carried. Thanks, Eric. That's good. Hope that's helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very helpful,
Oh,
and I
good.
appreciate the feedback and the discussion.
Yeah, great. And all
Thanks.
these maps are awesome. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just going to hand over to Joe now for the Sister Cities Conference item.
Cool, thank you. We have the next Sister Cities Conference coming up in March in Marlborough. The purpose of kind of bringing it now is because you have the New Zealand credits which are due to run out at the end of January, and we're really keen to make sure we get to use that. So if we get a decision now and we can book the flights before Christmas, is really we would. Yes, but this is the last chance. So we're proposing we send one person. We just have a nomination.
I'm happy to attend this conference. Alana, I asked Alana, she's in the thick of autumn festival planning, and probably due to my recent Sister City experience, I'm happy to attend this conference unless someone else is dying to go.
I would have loved to go on, but yes, I am unable to, and I would support Joe going.
Great. Okay. Right, well, let's move that.
Happy move.
Thank you. So we're going to receive Joe's report and we're going to approve that board member Davies Colley attends the Sister Cities Conference in March next year. Elise, and a seconder, please. Oh, Alana, sorry, I missed that. Okay, perfect. And all in favour? Great, carried. Please, yep. Right, let's move through to Treasury report. Look at that. Joe, you'll speak to that.
We'll just take the report as read, and if there is any questions.
The only thing we discussed at our last meeting was moving the pop-up garden funds, as little as like $35 or something, from committed funds into uncommitted funds, but it hasn't come through into this agenda, so perhaps that was just left off the radar.
We can do that next time.
Yeah, that's fine. So there's also a $300 line item that remains because that's credit at Amber Nurseries for the current guardians, but there's that small fund that can be changed.
And just another little thing under the prior year commitments, there's still St. John Cambridge sitting there, which Jim got in, says it's been invoiced and paid. So maybe someone just needs to investigate that. Have a look.
Yeah. When did he get that update? Oh, this was period 31st of October, so it's still fairly recent. Yeah. So it's the last one.
Any other comments, questions about the budget, or we're okay with that? Oh, so just your mic. That's right.
Okay. Yeah, the HIAB that is used by Waipa Works is out of action, so we've had to hire another HIAB. It will still be operated by Waipa Works, and we're hoping to get that through. So we may get away with Waipa Works actually coming up with the cost of the hire of the HIAB, but we're not sure yet. We're certainly putting in an application to their fund. They've got a form to fill out for that, and I think they'll probably pay for the hire of that HIAB to get the lights up. So the lights probably won't be up much before the beginning of next week, but yeah, we're
Great, thanks for covering that, Sue. Okay, anything else? No? Okay, all right. I'll just move that we've received Nada's report. A seconder, please. Alana, thank you. All in favour? Great. Any against? Oh, okay, good. Right, board members' reports from meetings attended. Let's start with, should we start with a council update? If there is anything to update us with.
So I haven't done my usual thing of going back through the agendas, but
That's okay.
the whole long-term planning thing is really coming to the pointy end now. So there's all these building blocks that go into it, finance strategy, policy, etc., etc. Bit by bit, they're sort of being ticked off, and
It's all done behind the scenes.
but some isn't. Yeah, but the budget stuff is still confidential, and that's sort of coming to the pointy end. So there's been a lot going on there. Can't say much, to be honest, because what happens if it gets to the point where it's sort of a draft budget that goes away from audit. They actually approve the draft budget, and then it goes to the consultation, which at that point would be suggested was and really working very well, just look at it and at the time for comment, which I believe is about February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Great.
Peter Nichols stuff about headwinds. It's true. There's really big financial pressure on district councils, all of them at the moment, mostly because of interest rates being really high. Anyone who's got debt, therefore you've got a lot of interest rate costs. Infrastructure costs, the cost of doing it is going really high, and that sort of doubles down in your territorial authority, because not only does what you want to do cost lots, but you have to fund the depreciation. That's my point. So the asset revaluations go up and up and up, and you have to fund the depreciation. You have to run a balanced budget, which requires you to fund depreciation at a rate. So you have to make fund depreciation. So the point he was just saying, the asset side of the balance sheet, the assets are going up $200 million. It's straight through the depreciation that you got to fund. There's all different depreciation rates, but still, it's a real cost. So there's plenty of pressure on. I won't say anything more.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, good.
I mean, there was workshops on yesterday, Tuesday, and one item which the community boards have a lot to do with was feasibility study with the library,
Mhm.
and our architects presented that, so that went well.
Great. No, it was great to be, it's great for Elise to be involved in that process, and it's also really good for them, good that they're using our data from the survey
And
as
the
part of their-
stakeholders meeting we had a couple of weeks ago at the town hall to look at all the different options. That was really good.
Great. Okay.
Probably the other thing is the World Cafe with Aki Aki.
Oh, yeah.
The final one was 2 weeks ago at Taupo. That's been a huge success and huge success from the community. Their involvement. Well, that's been a long process, and probably about 3 years since that the team sort of started that going, and but to be able to go out to the rural areas, not just go to the two main towns, go right out to the rural areas, tiny little rural areas, and ask for their comments and things like that. It's been really successful in the World Cafes. So the final one was 4th of November. We were invited, councillors and community board members were invited. They had an opportunity to talk a few options. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, so any updates?
The sister city visit from Ikamara, a very successful visit. Did well, and we're looking forward now to a visit from our other sister city of Pohoro in Japan next week. Yes, that's quite busy, but there's certainly the people from Ikamara have really enjoyed it, and I think all hosts enjoyed it too. So that was really great.
Yeah.
The Tree Trust attended their meeting yesterday. They've had a bit of an issue, because they're hoping to get the style over on the other side of the river here, that is in that Greenbelt area. They are very hopeful now of getting a kissing gate there, because it's easier for people, particularly with dogs, to get through, because trying to bring a dog over the stile is a bit much. So they asked for that, and the staff are now looking into it. I will be attending the AGM of the Cambridge Historical Society on Thursday evening at the museum. And we've had another memorable armistice commemoration event, so thank you to the committee involved. That was a really good event. We've still got a couple of events, so not more coming up. So we go at this time of year.
Sure
So
is.
thank you for all of you who sort of attended events and taken part. And I'm sure that the four events will
Great, thanks, sir. Lana?
Yes, it's all been sister cities and armistice, so all related stuff there. Just a couple of things I wanted to add on Yukinwa. There's hopefully some really positive kind of spin-off things coming from that. One is the Rotary relationship between the two cities. So they've connected both here and in Yukinwa, and that looks really positive. Also, the middle school is looking to connect with a French school in a correspondence type project, but moving that into like emails and maybe videos that they can send each other. Also, there's a high school potential agriculture exchange in the works as well. And what was, I'm sure there's one more thing.
Was that with Cambridge High, you said?
No, looking at St. Peter's.
Okay.
Yeah. So Philip took a couple of the delegates out to St. Peter's to meet with him. And yeah, hopefully we can make things happen.
Great.
Just to add to that, Cambridge High had a thing with the high school award too.
Yes,
Yeah.
Cambridge High does Pahora, which is
So-
great.
So that worked pretty well.
Yeah, so all go.
Cool, thank you. Elise?
I guess I'll just add to the library feasibility study a little bit more detail where that is at. We're continuing to meet weekly up until Christmas. We drafted a vision for the new library, which would have been presented to you guys, but that hasn't come through to you guys yet. And I wonder if you want to see, I mean, I haven't seen the elected member presentation. They just workshop that separately, but I don't know if that's worth having that in your inboxes as well. You would have seen it in the meeting yesterday. But the vision which we came up with, is for, and I'll read it to you, and interested if that rings true for you guys or if you think it's missed the mark. Vision, so the new Cambridge Library and Community Centre will be a connected hub of lifelong learning and social enrichment. The power of stories will inspire, educate, and entertain in a welcoming, innovative, and culturally inclusive environment. That's the vision statement. It is quite cool. It's quite hard producing a vision statement with 8 people in it, 6 people in it. But there's some nice language in there. So that's good. And now they're just at the point where they can working on their criteria to do site selection so that they can then look at potential sites and weight them accordingly. And all that's been confidential from me, so I don't know where those sites are, but was able to input into how they weight some of those categories and things like that. There's good discussion, and yeah, absolutely, it's pretty awesome the way our work continues to feed into their processes, and the value of our voice at that table is the most significant I've seen in any of our interactions with the council in the past. So that's really, really cool. And I attended the Ahara at the Will Cafe on behalf of Jo while she was away, because it wasn't an invitation to all the community board members. I think that's worth clarifying. It was just to the chair. Because otherwise we'd all feel like, why did I not know about that? No, it was just to the chair, and I went on Jo's behalf. And our role on that day was just to observe them feeding back their key outcomes from their recommendations for what their town of the future will look like. What was interesting was the way, they'd start off with divergent viewpoints around their proposals, but they all ended up, these World Cafe participants, at around the same end of the spectrum. So that was interesting. There's definitely a lot more work to be done on those recommendations to make them actionable, I think. And then we just were able to, I don't know what our job was at the end really, to offer commentary, but when we sort of tried to ask more questions, that was shut down pretty quickly. So, but one thing that came through in the language, through some of the recommendations that the participants put forward, which I noticed, was that concept of protecting our character and our village character. And I had kind of thought maybe that would have been explored further in the context of that World Cafe, but it hadn't been. And I presented that question to the participants, and the facilitator was like, we'll go and mine the data for you and see what we can find about character. So we'll need to follow that up. But I think it gives us a platform to think about what we do in the next 12 months, because it's certainly something that's really important to our community. It's something they want to preserve and they want to somehow continue to foster, but I don't know if we've got a cohesive view on that. So I thought that was a cool takeaway for us as a community board to do some work on going forward. But certainly a cool example of a reasonably diverse-ish, range of people. They certainly started with about 50 participants, but it was down to about 25. I think it was 42 down to 27 on that final one. So there's a fair bit of attrition there, but they've tried to connect with them in other ways as well. Would that be a fair summary of that last?
Great, thank you. I haven't done much since our last meeting because of
Apart from the weekend.
apart from the weekend. Obviously, our trip for the opening of the museum went really well. We're really well received over there. And the museum itself is an amazing memorial to New Zealand soldiers. It preserves the history beautifully. And our job now is really to promote it and to encourage Kiwis to go there and see its future thrive, really. Andrew.
Elise, I just had a question for you about the library. We did receive a media release yesterday about the 6 options. Is that right?
Oh, I haven't seen it, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate on that for us.
I've got it.
Okay.
No, I haven't been included in site selection detail.
No, it wasn't site selection.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I haven't.
Yeah.
Oh, those ones. Oh,
Yes.
sorry, those ones. Yeah. Variations. Yeah, they're just options that they are considering on what they create from here. And having a council-owned asset has some obvious benefits around cost and procurement and things like that. But everything's on the table, basically. Yeah, would be awarded.
Okay, great. Any other meetings?
Oh, yeah, I went to the Cambridge Sabre Community Trust meeting last week. It was at the New Cambridge Police Station, which was nice to visit. Good. There's a bit of a push in the Sabre Communities Trust to try and equalise the funding versus ComSafe and Te Awamutu receive proportionally more funding than Cambridge based on the population area. So there's discussion about why that is and how to present Cambridge's group's case better to the council for pro rata adjustment to that going forwards. That's going to be worked on into the long-term plan. The trust invited councillors and Roger Gordon and Mike Pettit were present at the meeting, and they were very constructive and engaged with what the trust was doing, so that was really good. The trust has built its bank balance up a little bit and has been able to re-employ Kathy, who was a second employee for I don't know how long it was, maybe 6 or 8 months at the moment. That's what it's looking like. So Eileen is stoked about that, which is good. Deb from the police and Neil from the community patrol commented that crime is on a little bit of a lull at the moment, which was interesting. They didn't have a reason for that, but it's just something to know that things are going well. Yeah, things are going well, I think. I'm pretty sure I just couldn't find it. The Cambridge Connections have sent me a placeholder meeting date, so it's kind of back on the agenda will come up. I just had some conversations with people about the idea of the northern on-ramp to the southern interchange. And I just remember Joe at our meeting with Waka Katahi said there's kind of no way in hell at $20 million. And he gave it a reason. There wasn't enough distance to the bridge to fit the. And I just was talking to Roger and another person in public, and you look at it actually on Google, and it's just not quite enough distance. But there's one difference in that on ramp. People are already going sort of 100 by the golf course to get onto it, whereas other on ramps, like at the northern change, actually stop at the traffic lights and then turn onto the on ramp. And he was using the same distance equivalent for the on ramp. So there's some engineering things there that I'd like him to that we can go. I'll take to the Cambridge Connections for them to answer about those sorts of things. I was thinking about the rural scene's a little bit different to sort of the Tree Trust or the Sister Cities, but there are things going on in the rural scene that aren't sort of like a trust or a group, but there's discussion groups and there's big Fonterra things going on. So I thought I should really report on that because that's really the crux of what happens in the rural scene. You might have heard the news, Fonterra's released the emissions thing. They want to reduce their emissions by 30% on farm by 2030. So that's something farmers are just starting to grapple with in dairying. And for other farmers, there's a lot of news about the drought coming for the summer. So government organisations, MPI and regional councils are really talking and really pushing it down the throats to prepare for that. So that's what people are thinking about out there.
Interesting. Okay. Thanks, Andrew. That's good. It would be quite good to have a little rural kind of update like that.
I do go to, so.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you. Okay, Mike, that was you, wasn't it, before? Okay, right. Date of next meeting is 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 6th of December, and I'll close the meeting now. And Elise, would you mind doing that? Closing karakia, because the pronunciation is so nice.
Sorry. Te pau hihiri, te pau rārama, te pau o te whakaaro, te pau o te tangata, te pau o te aroha. Ko e nei ngā pau I here nei a tātou, mauri ora ki a tātou, haumie huie tai pie. May clarity be yours, may understanding be yours through reflection, through personal endeavour, through respect. These are the virtues that bind us as one. May we be filled with well-being. Join, gather, unite.
Thank you very much. Right, and that's our meeting closed.